A tour of the European section of my zoo in Planet Zoo. This section of the zoo, called Mac Europe, because the zoo is called Mac Polska, houses over 10 different species that I've been working on building the exhibits for the last month or so. The first exhibit on our tour is the Alpine Ibex exhibit. It's themed a little bit after a castle with some crumbling walls and even a bridge. There used to be 3 in here, but now there is only 2, and only one of the original Ibex is still in this enclosure. This zoo is over 75 game years old and is on 5 times slower aging speed. Across the little moat is a small group of wild boar. Their exhibit is also themed after a sort of medieval castle vibe. Across from the boar and ibex is the gray wolf habitat. There's currently only 2 of them in here. This exhibit is a bit more modern than the previous ones, however it still has a lot of overgrown natural elements to it. The gray wolves can be viewed from this large viewing area that also has some shops and bathrooms for guests. Across from that is a small exhibit for European badgers. It's sunken into the ground and I tried to make it themed around hobbit houses, however I don't know how successful I was in this. Next to the badgers are some domestic animals, including some goats, and in the exhibit even further up the path next to that is the Highland cows and the sheep. Across from the domestic animals and in a shared building with the wolves is the Eurasian lynx exhibit. I think visually this is one of the more interesting exhibits I have, and I really like this one. If you continue up the path and look to the left, you will see a group of moose. Their exhibit is kind of marshy, wetland themed. And across from the moose is a large meadow and forest type habitat with European bison, European fallow deer, and red deer. This is the largest habitat out of all exhibits in the European section of the zoo. On the opposite side of the path, there's a little walking path towards the wolverine habitat. This is the only exhibit in the zoo with an indoor viewing area currently. When walking away from the wolverines, there's this large glass building that houses butterflies that guests can walk through. And on the other side of that, there's a large area for reindeer. And on the opposite side of the reindeer, there is an area for red foxes. I'll most likely revisit this habitat and add a little bit more, as looking back, I'm realizing it's a bit plain. And of course, this section of the zoo comes complete with its own train ride. Most animals on the upper part of the European section are able to be viewed from train. And that concludes the tour of Mac Europe. However, just because one part of the zoo is done doesn't mean that there isn't another that I'm currently working on. And I'm happy to report that Mac Africa is going to be the next area in the zoo. I have a loose plan for what animals I want, but let me know which ones you would like to see in this upcoming zone. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will continue to work on this in the coming weeks.